I concluded you could do it, you could address those issues, but the commission decided to simply go no further. If you're contemplating at all the possibility of questioning him on the merits, I don't know that anybody here remember what we said last year.
I do. And the main issue we said was, is there a campaign finance issue that we needed to reform? And so I would ask that he would come forward and make that case. We didn't see a problem that needed to be fixed.
Nor was there a groundswell of support for anybody saying they wanted something.
But I asked him that very question. I asked him if were there other city council members that felt as he did. And I asked him specifically, were there others that would come forward and endorse this? I also asked him, had the matter been brought up to the city council? And that got us into a separate discussion of could the city council act to amend the charter when there is a mayorally appointed charter revision commission? And I kind of backed around to saying it would be nice for the commission to hear if there were other city council members who wanted this, which would direct, answer your question directly, and also not yours. Is there some groundswell of support otherwise? So it's up to you as to how you want to proceed.
When you surveyed other municipalities, was there anybody similar in size to us that had done anything like this before?
Not that I recall. Yonkers is in an interesting position if you look at other cities across the state. There are certain instances where Yonkers has patterned itself after New York City, or whether that's for geographic proximity reasons or otherwise, or historic reasons. And then there are obviously others where, since the city of New York is just so much larger than Yonkers is more similar to municipalities like Buffalo and Syracuse and Rochester and so forth. As far as campaign finance is concerned, the only thing that I can think of to do, if you want it to be done, is a more technical analysis that would enable you to have a basis to ask questions. That would be the only thing I could think of to do beyond what we did last year. Otherwise, I think everything that we did last year, I can give you the same material, but that would be the only thing that I could think of above and beyond the
Did he have any support when you asked him if there was any other council members?
He did not indicate that. He didn't answer my question one way or the other. So therefore, I concluded from that either, in fairness to him, either there was no support or he hadn't asked them to support.
If I remember, Spitzer was on a roll at that point in time, and he was all for campaign finance reform. Even before he ran into problems, he stopped it.
Who?
Spitzer.
Who's on first?
We need bigger problems,
so that was the only thing that I took from that. So Joy's decision is you guys as to whether there's anything you want me to do.
I'd like to go back to one comment you made. Is the city council not authorized to do this themselves?
They are, however, and it's an interesting question here because I didn't get into the details of it with Chuck. The rule is established in the state statutes that if there is a matter that requires an amendment to the charter that would go to an election, that the city council would propose. Now, not all city council proposed charter amendments have to go to an election. There's a variety of circumstances where they do, most notably if it affects the power of an elected official, if it alters that power. When there's a mayorally appointed commission, as this one is, and the city council proposes a charter amendment that would require an election, if this commission proposes a charter amendment, their amendment is bumped off the general election. It can't go at that same general election. I didn't analyze whether or not the campaign finance reform actually would require an election by the citizens if the city council were to propose that amendment, because I haven't really thought it through to determine whether or not there is an elected official's power. Because we're not talking about the power of elected officials, we're talking about the money that candidates spend and don't spend. That they are in office doesn't matter, at least in my first way of thinking, because we're not dealing with their power as elected officials. We're dealing with their role as candidates. So I have to tell you in honesty, I don't know as of yet. I haven't really thought it through. It's possible that they could do this without the commission being involved.
But right now, that's not an issue.
That is not.
Right now, the issue is Chuck is proposing that we take a look at these 5 items. My suggestion is we ask Chuck to come to the next meeting and speak to us about these 5 items. I will circulate to you the pages. I'll circulate the whole draft, and I'll point out to you that pages 4 and 5 speak to these 5 issues, and then we can ask questions to Chuck when he's here. What I'll ask him to do, and I'll circulate his letter to you, so you'll have all of that, and I'll send it to you actually electronically. I'll have it scanned in and send it to you electronically, so you have it. What I'll ask you to do is that we prepare ourselves to be able to listen to him and ask him questions, and I'll direct him to say, hey, you got to come make your case for the 5 items if you want to. I'll say honestly, if he's saying that the full-time one is not, either say it is or it isn't something you want us to consider.
Right.
Don't kind of like throw something out there and see if it sticks.
The only one that I mean, again, the commission can do as it sees fit, but the one that involves redistricting issues and staggered terms has been literally beaten to death. I mean, we have dealt with that issue so many times, and the simple answer to that proposal is you just make these changes. What he's saying is that redistricting and salaries can't be, he's saying that they can't be undertaken during somebody's term of office, and those terms of office are staggered. And so the simple answer is fine. So you act today and you make it effective 2 years from now. I mean, it's very, very, very simple to deal with this.
And we sent that to him.
Yes.
So again, we're not proposing saying that to him before he comes. So, anyone?
Steve, you understand his point. Even though the council votes today, 2 years from now, you still have 3 council members sitting.
No, his point is...
So they would be voting themselves a raise without facing an election.
No, because if first, there's 2 ways of dealing with it. It's not that they're sitting, it's within their term of office.
So he's not asking about raises right now.
But I think
Yes.
It says resolving redistricting issues regarding staggered terms.
Yeah, but in his memo,
In his memos, he goes to that.
Stating that they cannot vote themselves a raise because there is never a council sitting that will not affected by a raise.
and that's not correct. Because if we have today, we have people who are going to be up at the next election, right?
246?
Right? And then we have people who are going to come up in the following election.
No, no. Well, the following election in 3 years.
Right, that's right.
Okay.
So on the day before, literally, the day before the terms are to expire for the incumbents that are going to be up at the next election, they can vote a raise that will go into effect after the next 2 elections, which is slightly more than 2 years old. And that will affect nobody in their existing term of office. That's the way it has to be done. That's the closest time. So they just act prospective.
Motion to invite Chuck Lesnick to speak to the 5 issues. Moved by Eileen, second by Steve. All in favor? Any opposed? One other brief question. Do we wish to have Steve do any work on these, or do we wish to wait to hear from?
I think you kind of have to wait to see what direction he really intends it to go before you do a lot of research.
And it has 5 items. There might only be 1 or 2 that we
He's
feel
already starting,
we want to go
he's already
forward.
changing one of the items, so.
Yeah, the only one, like I said, the only one that I think is technical enough and has issues that are potentially, if you want to get into it at all, significant, is the campaign finance. Everything else, I think...
But we're not clear where you want to move forward on that.
Right. And that's what I said. If I were to do anything, what I